Why is the market rallying so much after hours? We can see the 6 o'clock open, the absolute drop, and then just literally the absolute lift here, not only on the ES, but on the NQ. And we have massive news, so we're going to jump right into it. As always, subscribe to the channel, click all notifications. These videos come out at different times and different durations based upon tactical or strategic. So it's best to like and subscribe and follow along, okay? Now, we've all been watching rates and we all see that we're staying right around that 4.25 area. And we're thinking that that's going to be our driver. But if we're not going to get rate cuts, then it looks like the administration is going to try to increase GDP. They're doing it and trying to do it through tariffs. Some things came out tonight with Apple, Intel, Micron, all of them, and we're going to dive right into it. And I want to start with this. These moves lately have been enough to just drive you crazy. And you're seeing straight up from the rally all the way to the trough. And I just want to mark this off before we begin. So you're at the 64, 66 right up in this area. You come all the way down to the third, and you have an 8.5% drop from Thursday. From there, you've reclaimed a lot. And so if we just drop it from the peak and come all the way to the fib, we're going to notice something. We're going to notice that we are finally over that 50% line, and we rallied with that at 4 o'clock this morning. And then we finally popped over around 11:30 because we pretty much have the leaky administration in the history of administrations, in my opinion. But we will get to that. So let's do it. Apple is at 220 after hours. Why? There's a lot of reasons for this. And one of the things that I'm really clear on, it's one of the reasons why if you're trading, I would strongly suggest that you do follow along with this channel, and I'll explain why. We cover not only the macro, but the fundamentals and the technicals. And we refer to it as the stool. And if you've been here before, you've seen me draw it out. We're not going to do it for time's sake. But on earnings, this kept dropping. And I would say after hours, people are not getting what this guy's saying. If you listen to the call, he told you a major announcement was coming. He was very clear about it. You've been unable to break this level down here, and it provided a huge opportunity for those that understood that there was a put wall right in here, right around the 200 level, and that you never really broke it, and it gave us an excellent opportunity to get in. So in the community, we actually went long in this area. We bought stock, and we also bought calls, and we also sold puts. Now, just for disclosure, here it is. So when I'm talking about it, you can actually see the timestamp and everything. I buy calls, and then in this case, I also just sold the puts to pay for the calls. And the reason for that is because I didn't like paying for them myself. So I was able to get another $8 out of it, which they'll probably be, wallpaper tomorrow. So I'll just close those off and just keep the 205s and just keep the stock. You can learn more on conference calls than anywhere else. But why is it doing what it's doing? And this is what we're really going to dive into. So first and foremost, you can see the early move. And this early move here, you can look this up for yourself on either Reuters or one of the other services. We're going to get super technical on charts and keep this short and sweet so that it could still be actionable. When you see this move early in the morning, this is them suggesting that they're going to put up to $600 billion in the US. After hours, we see these other moves as people start catching on. This move is the tariffs that are coming out, which are now going to be 100% on any semiconductor that is not made in the US. Any semiconductor that's not made in the US is now going to have a 100% tariff. This kind of move, Apple's now talking about creating their own chips. This means that you're going to have possibly new foundries. Who are they going to go to? We're going to get to those names in a second. That's why Apple's doing what it's doing. It's lifting on this news and people are starting to connect the dots. They're talking about hiring 20,000 people. They're talking about this huge build out in the US. And if you're Tim Cook, if you really think about it, 1 minute you're in China, and then you realize you have to get out of there because you're having this trade war, which is what I believe it is. And then so you go to India, and now now the US is in a trade war with India, for lack of a better term. We'll call it a tariff dispute if that makes everybody feel better about it. But the bottom line is, based upon that, you had the first piece of news here on the $600 billion injection. Here they start mapping out how many people they're going to hire. The tariff news hits, and then they start hitting the next piece of news, which is, hey, we're probably going to start coming out making our own chips. That in and of itself, if you start thinking about that, how much more the gross margins of Apple could go up if they do it, what the time frame is, and then what the build out is. And this explains a lot of other little things too when I really think back to it. Like, for example, out of nowhere last week when everything else was falling apart, if we go and take a look at the capital equipment manufacturers, KLAC was holding right in here. So was Lam Research. Take a look at Lam Research. We're not going to have time to edit this tonight. You can see how we're holding that 55 as well right in here. And so is AMAT. So what this means is all these companies, obviously, again, I think this is an extremely leaky administration. But if we see how this is all holding in that area, well, it's telling us something. We even saw ASML stop, right? And that actually just stopped going down on this weird little doji out of nowhere around the same time. And my reasoning for that is because I do think that this was already coming out, because you see it there on Friday. Like if you look at these moves on Friday, you stop dead here, right? Just stop, drop, and roll right there. And then all of a sudden, go take a look at KLAC. When did this do it? Friday. Go look at LAM, AMET, Friday. Why is that so important? Apple. Earnings. So it's very clear to me that this leaked and that they know that they're doing these build outs and that they knew that this tariff was coming. It's very clear that whoever was connected was pretty much aware that this was coming and they took advantage of it. And that's the game. It's a big club and we're just not invited to it. So we have to just use the tools that we have. I think this is super important to get, and what this probably does, at least off the open, is it's going to drive us. So when we start looking at the RSI and the 400 on the ES, well, let's do it this way. We'll do it this way. Let's look at the 4 hour. There's your doji, can't get over it. Doji, 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 lifts. Look at the liquidity grab now. You have a completely different chart right here. You have a completely different chart where now you're coming down, grabbing what you can and ripping everyone's face off. Grabbing what you can with the liquidity and then ripping everyone's face off. Remember, anytime you get a bar that's below the previous bar on the wick, low, and then goes above, back above the open, they're pretty much liquidity grabs. Whether they work or they don't work, you want to pay attention to those areas. They're really important. You can see it in here as well. Comes down here, grabs everything it can, and then goes. Just the exact opposite of liquidity grab up here. When you see them, like you see them here, just pay attention to them, right? You want them to be green. But once you see them, they tend to mark bottoms, and that's exactly what's happening here as well. And the RSI is not overbought. Now, if we drill into this on the hourly, yeah, you're getting there and you might be there by the morning, but you could stay there for a day or two before you come back. The big one is the 4 hour, and you're already washed out, and we're going sideways. The important thing is what else is driving after hours, and I think that that's really what we should focus on. So one of the things when this hit after hours, people that really don't have a clue started selling, and I really don't know how else to say that to make it like nicer than they don't have a clue. But I think what we're going to do is stick with they don't have a clue. But because I can't come out with the other thing that I should be saying. And the reason that I want to point this out is because as soon as this hit, you buy. You don't sell. So everyone sees this with the tariffs. They don't understand the fundamentals. They don't understand the macros. So these things get smoked. And as soon as that happened, I put this out there because I'm buying it. It's funny. I was actually on a coaching call and stopped on the call because I saw what was going on. But you see the NVIDIA and the AMD not sell. Because everybody's puking it because they have no idea what they're doing. If you are going to be in a situation where you're trading this stuff and you don't even understand the mechanisms, please listen to this part of this. If you don't even understand the mechanisms that's going to move a stock up or down, you should not be trading that vehicle. Period. End of story. If you don't even know why the thing is moving, and you're just doing what everybody else is doing, then you're just going to get the results of everybody else. Everybody can see that this bar is greater. I guarantee you if we took the time and put the ATR on it, it's 2 times the ATR. All you're looking for is an inflection point. We're just waiting to see when institutions are going to let retail and how long they're going to let retail puke it out. Gave us an excellent entry, and then you're just marking off this level right here, which is where the news hit. And you can see you're above it. It's not just AMD that did it. It's NVIDIA as well. And NVIDIA is going higher. And we can see very, very clearly, how do they profit from this? If you're in the US and you want to buy a chip, you don't want to be tariffed on it anymore, do you? So you're not going to be buying chips from anywhere else but US chips. How fast do you think that they're going to start building Taiwan Semi? I mean, look at what happened to Taiwan Semi the minute this news hit. For those that understood it, they made $10. This is why I'm going to do it. Here it comes. This is why it's so important to understand the stool, the macro, the fundamental, and the technical. I told myself I wasn't going to do it. I promised I wasn't going to do it for time's sake. Promise broken. And what's important about this is understanding that we're sitting here waiting for one different event to drive the market. And there's another event that drives the market that's a macro event that is out of the hands of Taiwan Semi, NVIDIA, all of them. It is a macro event that is being done by the administration. That tells us what is going on. Who's going to profit from it? Semiconductors are going to profit from it. Understand the macro event. Who's going to profit from it? The when tells us when to buy. It doesn't tell us that we have to buy immediately. So it's what, who, when. What did the administration do? Who's going to profit from it? When do we buy? And we're just using technicals. It's not, once you understand those two legs, the rest is the technical part of it. But that's like showing somebody, like this is what gets to me all the time, is that somebody will look at something like the ES, and we're going to go on a little rant. Not a big one, a little one. But it's like looking at the ES, for example, and saying to yourself like, oh, my strategy works great. I buy, zero dated options. Oh, when do you do that? Oh, I did it on, Friday. I killed it. Okay, well, you had something that came out on Friday called non-farm payrolls. If non-farm payrolls didn't come out the way that you thought it was going to come out and you had zero dated options, your trade didn't work. So it's really important to understand the mechanisms on why the trade worked. It's not just because you knew that this was support and this is resistance and we did a break and we retested this area. That's not why it did it. The same thing with NVIDIA. I can love NVIDIA all I want. Some people say I'm obsessed, maybe. But I can love NVIDIA all I want. But if it doesn't have the earnings and it doesn't have the news, it's not going to do what I need it to do. Tonight you got news. That news is significant, and that's why the stock is higher. What, who, when? That is the stool. It's just a super important concept to get, and you can run through it in 30 seconds, and it'll save you an exhaustive amount of ag. So when you see these undercuts at these key levels, they usually present opportunities. You can see what's happening with AMD. In regards to AMD, what do I think about tomorrow? I mean, why buy a hamburger if you could buy steak? In other words, why would I ever buy this long term when I could go out there and buy NVIDIA? It's kind of silly. But yeah, I mean, if you can get over this level, that magnet worked awful. And you're going to just have to bear with it because I know this is going out late and I know it's unfiltered, but I wanted to get it out because there's a tremendous amount going on out there. And by the time Asia opens, it's probably going higher. So let's get it all out there. 66.21, you flip that tomorrow, you got your shot at your gap fill. So you watch your 66.21 level. If you look at NVIDIA, it's just going to have more awesomeness. If you had to figure out that move, where do you go? Probably the open, and then you test those people up here, that 83.30, 183.30, and then we'll have to go from there on that. But you're going to want to watch some of these other names and see if they get some upgrades tomorrow. Do they fade this? Do they not fade it? I don't know. We're going to have to see how that plays out. I had a great trade on AMD at great fades today, but candidly, at the end of the day, you had a lot of buying coming in. Really important concept here, guys. If Apple continues to do this, you're going to see a lot of people. In other words, if it's not a, Space Force kind of announcement, I'm not denigrating the announcement, but if they're really going to follow through with it, just like we talked about some of these other announcements that come out that we haven't seen come to fruition yet, if they're going to follow through with it, it's going to be pretty big, and you're going to want to watch that 223.58 level tomorrow because you're probably going to test that gap fill, and then you're going to have this huge, I wouldn't call it an island, but you definitely have this massive base under there now, don't you? And that's something else that you're going to want to watch, and then of course you're going to want to watch the SOX and how the SOX acts to that, and SOXL. So you have all these moving parts, and it's super important to watch those. That said, you're definitely getting some new leaders besides that. PLTR today, that was just a hands down beautiful liquidity grab. Look at this. And on days like today, I do not get aggressive. These are not the days for me to get aggressive because you can get slaughtered. But this was beautiful, and you can see it right here. I mean, absolutely perfect from that pre-market low. It undercuts that pre-market 929. Look, going straight across. It undercuts the pre-market low. People always say don't buy below the pre-market low. Send them a photo of this. And then what you did was you got above that pre-market high, and then you can see it coming straight across. You try to use from 7 over and not use Asia. And then when you hit that area, look at it. And that was it. It was gone. So this provided a lot of opportunity for people today to get involved in this. Obviously, you're up higher after hours, and you're challenging some of these levels. It looks like you're going to push. It really does. Just disclosure, I do have a position in this. Take a look at the volume. And the volume was through the roof again today. You're significantly above your level. So they want to be long and strong. The other one that really finally broke out and has been in this really interesting position for some time is Shop. Shop absolutely crushed with great guidance. They're going to benefit greatly from AI, making things more efficient, and they are ripping people's faces off. Disclosure, I have a position in this as well. The other thing that got to me today was some of these names had just got taken to the woodshed. And I know UPST wasn't great, but man, they're just trashing some of these names. And it really makes you wonder. It really does. It makes me wonder how sustainable even tomorrow's rally is going to be with this market. I think that if they actually come to fruition and do what they say they're going to do, that it's going to, they'll be in decent shape. Some people actually went out there and bought Intel instead of NVIDIA, but I don't want to talk about those people. But that's what happens. That's what you get. That's why you got to learn the stool right here, right now. Other than that, tomorrow's going to be a little wild with claims, but the real news is going to be this. And I would pay very, very close attention to how this acts tomorrow. If you get over 223.58 tomorrow, you're going to rip. That really, in and of itself, is the question. Can we get above that 223? Do you see upgrades on this because of gross margins? That kind of thing. In regards, we might as well do it while we're here, trying to avoid it, to drag this out. But if you start looking at some of these names after hours, I'll just go through them, what I know about these names, because these are the earnings for the night. Apps guidance was okay. It wasn't great. JOBY buy, you're all over the place, but candidly, the trade is the trade. I don't know why people would be buying this thinking they're going to crush right now as they're trying to build out, but you never know how that's going to act. DraftKings is actually up. I actually had a fairly decent quarter. I have not listened to this call. I'm not even sure if I think the calls are usually tomorrow. The big winner is going to be Duolingo. And I thought this was so fascinating. But you see this earnings gap right here? So I put this earnings gap out there. If you're trying to get in the community, there's 3 days left, link in description. And if you're on the wait list, look for a newsletter. You should be getting an invite. We see this gap right here. It's just fascinating to me that you stopped at that gap again tonight. So if I flip to this real quick, and they crushed, by the way, but if I flip to this after hours, take a look at this. You're wedged right in there.